So last time, Donna and Junior learned the good news about Sonia, but Sonia ain't trying to hear nothing that Junior's talking about right now. Now Paris is on Niles' trail. Rio is getting more revelations, and Orlando and Vegas are far away from home and in the wrong hands. Listen, I don't think y'all ready for this season finale of Family Business, but if you are, child, buckle up. Hey, y'all. It's Letitia with Lighten Up with Letitia, and I'm your host. And we are here with the season finale of the Family Business Season 5. This is episode 10, entitled All is Fair in Leavenworth. And I'm telling you, it is jam packed. Okay. Now we're starting off with Vegas or Orlando. Remember, they're in the back of Roscoe's car. He drops them off in the middle of nowhere, uncuffs them, and says, "Yo, me a favor and good luck." They hear some dogs in the background and they set off on foot. Literally, they're on the run. Now, back at the station house, the senator is upset because them boys is gone, right? And Billy Bob has everybody up in an uproar. The senator declares open season on the Duncans and places a $20,000 bounty on each one of their heads. So basically giving them a open season, to be out here being extra and doing the thing. Anyway, he says, go get them. And it's time for us to go back to how we used to do things. Forget all that politically correct-ish. Now, meanwhile, Uncle LC, we see him landing in the private jet, and where he goes to meet up with KD, who was asking where his sons are because, boy, I gave you $100,000 to find them. So KD says, I gave the money to the only person who I think could take care of it. So Roscoe should be dropping them off at the location that he promised. So we need to go and try to find them. Tommy and the senator has the whole county looking for them. So we need to go see if they're at that point. Now, meanwhile, Rio has dropped off Aunt Coretta at her home, and they sit down. Of course, he has questions, and he's just trying to still take in the fact that she told him that Roman is his brother because all he's ever known is Paris being his twin, and he can't believe that he's not a Duncan. She's like, no, honey, you got it wrong. You are very much a Duncan. You're very much still Paris's brother, but also Roman is your brother as well. So at this point, Paris tries calling him, but he gave it to voicemail and everything. Well, on the other end, she is like, she left him a voicemail and said, Rio, I hate when you're mad at me. If you really still want to talk about that Margaret thing, even though I think she's a kook, just give me a call back. She hangs up. Curtis is there. She's telling Curtis about the fact that Rio is upset. And there was like, I can't believe he's believing this strange woman. We don't know her. And Curtis was like, well, I was there when y'all was born. He's definitely a Duncan and all that sort of thing. But clearly, they don't have the full story. In the meantime, Curtis sent over that flower shop footage over to Nevada so that he could do his thing and they could try to find out wherever the heck Niles is. So back to Rio, and Aunt Coretta is telling him the story. She says, yes, well, this has happened way back when Margaret, Roman's mother, was a labor and delivery nurse. And one of her patients was a well-off Black couple. And they go to the flashback of young Chippy and young LC in the delivery room, and Uncle LC is real nervous and everything. And Nurse Margaret asks if they already had children, and they answer, yes, they have 4 already. So that was Junior, Vegas, London, and Orlando. And she said, now we have a double blessing because we're having twins. Now, Aunt Coretta says that this did something to Margaret because she had recently, about 6 weeks ago, had a stillbirth, and prior to that had 2 miscarriages. So, and then on top of that, Margaret's doctor told her that she couldn't have any more babies. So this is where we're starting to see the reasoning behind, the story is beginning to unfold. Now, next, Roman, child, he is still on the run from Vonnie, and he's hiding behind dumpsters, ducking and dodging, and Vonnie and his crew are finally in a vehicle now, but they're looking for him. Now, back at Hicksville, USA in Virginia, Billy Bob and his hillbilly buddies pull up in their truck in pursuit of Orlando and Vegas because they know that they're on foot. So Billy Bob was like, oh, I see something on yonder there, whatever. The boys was like, no, it's just a deer. Ain't nothing over there. He was like, no, that I'm going to go see. So he went to go see, took a few guys with him, but left two guys behind who was like, I just tried to tell him ain't nothing over there but deer. Child, next thing you know, Orlando and Vegas took out the two boys, knocking them out. And just when they were about to grab their blickies, Big Bubba comes out at them, pointing a sawed-off blicky towards them. So now they hemmed up once again. Now, meanwhile, back at the mansion, Junior finally brings his sorry tale to the house looking for Sonia. And he is greeted by London, who was preparing to have a mother and daughter day with her girls. So Junior was like, hello to you. She was like, don't try to act like we close when you ain't returned none of my calls and none of my text messages. He was like, I'm not here for the drama. Where's my wife? And she was like, I don't know. But I do know that you're too late, and you better hope that she's not somewhere getting rid of something. And he was like, what are you talking about? She's like, do you really want me to spell this out in front of my daughters? And so he was like, well, no, she wouldn't do that. She wouldn't, unalive our child. She said, well, you better hope so. He's like, well, where is she? She was like, your wife, don't you have a location on her? So he looks at his phone, looks at the location, and sees that Sonia is at the women's clinic. So he jets out and leaves to go find Sonia. Child, he busts up into the clinic where he does see Sonia there. She's like, what are you doing? Where are you? Why are you here? And now he get to begging, baby, please. He want her back. I love you. I was a fool. I was stupid. And he was like, please don't tell me. I'm trying to, keep you from making the biggest mistake of your life. Please tell me you didn't do it. Please tell me. And so Sonia was like, I couldn't go through with it. I came here to get my prenatal vitamins. And you here making a fool of me again. You're embarrassing me. And he was like, a bunch of more, baby, please. And I'm sorry. All the things I did to you, you didn't deserve it. She was like, you've been running around here like a frat boy. I didn't deserve it. He said, you're so right. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And so she says, I hear you, but this ain't over. But they did indeed leave together. Now, on a more serious note, we get to Brother Elijah, who is talking to Brother T, saying that he's been trying to get in touch with Elsie Duncan, but to no avail. All of a sudden, a messenger comes with a telegram that indeed summons Brother Elijah and the Brotherhood to Elsie Duncan. So now they don't have to look for him. Next thing you know, Detective Bryant comes and shows up at the door, bringing them some very unfortunate, horrible, terrible, very sad news. And he mentions that the man you know as Farah Muhammad, or Brother Minister, has been found unalive in Los Angeles. He was shot point blank in the chest, and he had it in an envelope. And Elijah did confirm that those pictures were indeed of Brother Minister. You could tell he's upset, but he's also Muslim. They keep their composure. But you could tell that the rage is a brewing underneath. And I can just tell you, baby, you did something to Brother Minister. First of all, we all upset, okay? As a Duncan, I am very upset about it as well. And it's going to be hell to pay now that Brother Minister is gone. Whew. Now, we go to the boat because there's always a meeting on the yacht, right? The table is meeting on the yacht, and then all of a sudden, Chippy and Paris walk in with news. Now, Consuela starts asking for Elsie. Where's Elsie? I didn't leave my place of business to come and see you. If Elsie called this meeting, then where is he? He needs to be here. She started getting beside herself. I'm like, ma'am, first of all, you just got to this table and you need to take a seat and watch your tone. Before it's some trouble. Okay, so anyway, because Paris, she don't play that, and she ain't got no filter either. So she was coming back at her and basically saying, if you wasn't Nevada's mama, I would. They had to each calm down, and Chippy says, okay, no, Paris, calm down. It's fine. She's part of the table. They all have the right to know. Elsie is with Katie right now, rescuing Vegas and Orlando from the Dixie Mafia. Now, she does not, Consuela doesn't take it seriously. She's like, they sound like a bunch of hillbillies. But all of the men at the table know exactly who the Dixie Mafia is, and they all started chiming in about the fact that they are a very powerful underworld organization and how serious this is. And they're vicious, they're violent, they're powerful, and they are in high ranking officials on the outside, right? And Juan remembers when Uncle LC had trouble with them before. Remember, we don't know the full story yet, but we know it has something to do with Vegas. And it's the reason why they're looking for him now. How they're like, how did he even get out in the first place? Because Vegas is supposed to be still in jail. So anyway, then she asked Chippy asks for their help. And of course, they were like, whatever it is that you need, we got you. But then Uncle LC calls to tell her that the guys are fine. And she's like, well, what happened? So let's go back to when Orlando and Vegas, they took out the two guys, whatever, about to pick up their blickies, and Big Bubba came and was holding them hostage at that point. Next thing you know, poof, pop, he got popped. And they looked and said, Pop. Daddy came to the rescue. He said, come on, KD has a vehicle for us. Let us get out of this backwoods town. Okay, so they get in the car and they go to leave. Why did Orlando try to go back and try to kick the dude? Vegas had to bring him on. Orlando is such a hothead. Okay, anyway, back at the mansion. So Junior and Sonia come back to the house, basically tells her to get her stuff. He wants her to move in with him. And he said, I promise I'll make it up to you, but it has to be away from here. Next thing you know, Uncle LC walks in with Vegas and Orlando. He talking about some, hey, Junior, you're home. As if this is some family reunion. It's going to be all hunky-dory. And of course, Junior was not having it. He wanted to go talk. Junior refused to talk to him. He was like, no. He said, Sasha was my sister, and she died not knowing. Although quiet as kept, I think that Sasha did know. And baby, you were the only one that did not know. So then he starts talking to Vegas all crazy, because Vegas was like, you need to pipe down. You need to calm yourself. He was getting on my nerves. But he said, the only family I care about is my mother, Donna, my wife, and our unborn child. So, of course, everybody's like, oh, my gosh, you're having a baby. And he was like, yes. And you and Chippy won't take our baby like you took me. And Vegas was like, you know what? Now that is enough. Now you're going too far. You're doing too much. And he was like, yeah, that is enough. Let's go. He told Sonia, you either with me or you with them. And I have an important meeting to get to. So she was like, I love y'all. Bye, y'all. And she walked out with Junior very sadly. Anyway, back on the boat. Aunt Chippy and Paris leave the table meeting and they chat for a little bit. And Paris is like, I have a date. I said I would go to lunch with somebody. So she's heading off to her date. And she walks up. Now I'm like, girl, ain't somebody stalking you right now? Like, she literally has no security with her. She was just walking all gleefully to her own car away from the boat. And I'm just thinking, like, where is your security? Meanwhile, DJ and Aunt Chippy get in the car and they drive off. And as they're driving off, Brother Elijah and his two bodyguards roll up. They get onto the boat where they go to talk to the people that are still left on the boat. And Senor Cruz pipes up and was like, we were expecting Brother Minister. He said, yes, we just received word that Brother Minister was unalived yesterday in LA by a group calling themselves the Alliance. And they were like, who in the world is this? They said the Alliance is being led by Junior Duncan. Now, Senor Cruz is in disbelief. He is like, no, he would never, ever betray his family like that. You need to put that on some. I know you lying. And he says, no. Consuela actually finally making herself useful at this table and saying, no, it's very possible, Marcos, because he's been spending a lot of time with Antonio Dash at the Hellfire Club. And so Elijah, he didn't respond to all that. He's like, listen, I just wanted to give LC Duncan a heads up before the Brotherhood takes action. So then Juan had to step up and say, please, out of respect, we very much loved and adored Brother Minister. And the one reason why he was so respected was because he always thought before he actually took action. So we're asking that you please hold off a little bit until let me go and talk to Elsie first before the Brotherhood takes action. To which Brother Elijah said, I can grant that request since we have to do his funeral arrangements anyway. He said, but once he is laid to rest, everyone involved will feel our wrath. And I know that's right, okay? Because it's going to be hell to pay. Now, meanwhile, Antonio and Dominique are meeting because he is still recruiting, and he's having dinner with someone that he's talking to and talking about how impressed he is about this man's reputation, and he'll be a valuable asset to their organization, as well as being able to increase their own power. And they could see it as a stepping stone for their future aspirations. And when I tell you that when they turned the camera, who he was talking to was the MF senator from Virginia, the one who just wanted to have a rope party. You know, the one that got a $20,000 bounty on Vegas and Orlando's head. You know, the ones that want to have a war with the Duncans. Yes, him. And he says, well, he sounded like he got cud in his mouth. Like, yeah, I let me think about it. Let me think about it. Anyway, moving on to Roman and Rio. Child, it's the next day, right? So it's all bright and sunny outside. And we see Rio leaving Roman's house where he was talking to Ed Coretta. But we hear Vonnie in the background talking about, yeah, I knew he'd be coming home sooner or later. Then next thing you know, they pan to Roman coming down the street. He's smiling and saying hi to people on the street. I mean, he might as well have been singing the Smurf song. Like, la, 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 as if you weren't hiding and ducking and dodging all night long. What the hell? I mean, he just was not even on alert at all whatsoever. You know, next thing you know, Vonnie comes out with the blicky, asking for his money. And he was like, where is my money? He's like, it's going. He said, that was $250,000. Where's my money? Next thing you know, he hit him with a quick 1-2, knocked him down to the ground. And he was like, I used it. I used it for my mom's operation. He was like, oh, that's too bad. He said, but if you don't get my money, everybody in your family gonna need an operation. Next thing you know, Rio came out of nowhere, child, with his own blicky talking about some get the F away from him. And he was like, who are you? Who are you supposed to be? He said, I'm your worst nightmare. He was like, you look like one of them sissies. He was like, oh, really? He said, well, sissy this, bitch. Psh. Okay, Vonnie on the ground. And then he said, y'all want some? Because his two boys was sitting there, right? Now, they sitting there without blickies. I thought that was weird. And then when Vonnie got to the ground, they didn't even scoop their boy up or nothing. They just got into the truck and rolled away. But okay, do your thing. Child. Anyway, so Roman was like, oh, I know you. He said, yeah, you know me, you jacked me. He was like, well, why you helping me then? He was like, because I'm your brother. And, you know, Roman is looking in disbelief. Then we go to Paris and Bobby, who are out on this date, right? And Bobby got called away because the waiter came and said, hey, the owner of this establishment really wants to take a picture with you. He's a really big fan. So he gets called away from the table. Next thing you know, Curtis called Paris, and he has Nevada with him, and they have an update about that footage they were trying to find. So unfortunately, they weren't able to pull anything from the guy. They couldn't figure out who the guy was. But in the reflection, they were able to see a license plate from the car that he was using, right, child? The car was registered to Bobby the Beast Boyd, who she was sitting right there on a date with, making Willie Monroe his daddy, making Bobby the Beast Boyd Niles' cousin. So now we know this was a setup from the get up. Child, he comes back to the table. He's just trying to order food or whatever. And she's like, no, I think we should go. He's like, oh, what's wrong? Something wrong? And he was like, oh, this ain't about Karen, is it? Because I told you he was with somebody. And Kane was with Karen in the Black Hamptons. Anyway, she was like, this ain't about Karen and no other B. This is about Niles Monroe. Then he was like, oh, okay, well, I guess the cat's out the bag. Next thing you know, she pulled her blicky out, put it on the table. And he was like, what you gonna do? He said, because I'm Bobby the Beast Boyd. And she said, well, I'm Paris M and F and Duncan. And my family has so much money that I'll be out of the country before your body even hits the ground. And you're not the first person that had to take down, the first man that had to take down because he tried to play me. And she get to try to blast, and child, no bullets. Not a one. Now I'm thinking, like, first of all, don't you know the weight of your own piece? But girl, I digress. Baby, I'm just doing too much thinking. But he mentioned, like, okay, I'm so glad that before we left, I took those bullets out of that, out of your blicky. So she's standing there looking silly, really. And he said, yeah, I told you that this was going to be a memorable evening. And it was really nice to meet you, and my cousin will be in touch. So he leaves out. And next thing you know, she had her head down. Next thing you know, Niles swoops in and pours himself a drink. She's like, okay, so what is going on? What do you want? And he says, what do I want from the woman that I once loved and who tried to unalive me? He said, you could have just told me. Because remember, the reason why she had to off him in the first place was because he was an assassin who took a job, and the mark was her daddy. And so she took him out, or she thought she did, before he was able to take out her daddy. And so he was like, you could have just told me. I could have not taken the job. I wouldn't have taken the job. And she was like, but you said once you take the money, it's basically on from there, whatever. And so what now? And he said, what now is I just want you to know that I'm out here and I can get to you or your father anytime I want to. And he said, and even with all this, I never stopped loving you. He finished his drink and he got up and left. And she was like, I never stopped loving you either. Now, on a side note, I was sitting here like, you really let your cousin sleep with the woman you love? Again, I digress. Okay, anyway, so we show a quick glance then of the alliance who are now sitting down at the table. They're coming together one by one. And the last ones to sit down was Sonia and Junior Duncan. So apparently she forgave him. He must have told her a little bit of the story, because she literally sitting at the table with all of the enemies of her family, of the Duncan family. Anyway, Junior asked, what is the meaning of this last minute meeting? And Antonio's like, well, it's come to our attention that Brother Minister's death has basically made the rounds and everything. So it's only a matter of time before they know the Alliance's involvement in this. Now, back at the mansion, the Duncans are getting ready to have a really big family dinner. And Nene brings out her huge bowl of her famous fried chicken. And it's Uncle LC there, Orlando, Vegas, Aunt Nene, and then Aunt Chippy walks into the door. So now Uncle LC is looking visibly bothered. He's looking like he's down, like something just isn't right. And she was like, well, where is Junior? I thought he was going to come. He was like, yeah, but him and Sonia decided to leave. His anger is just downright disrespectful at this point. And the next thing you know, someone knocked on the door. Vegas got up and said it absolutely has been disrespectful, but he went to go answer the door. And who comes in is Juan and Senor Cruz. And they come in with some not so great news at this point. They inform the Duncans that Brother Minister was unalived last night. And of course, everyone at the table is in an uproar, highly upset about it, especially Orlando, because, that was his guru, his teacher. And everybody's like, who's responsible for this? And Juan had to take the stage and say, well, as we know it, it's an organization called the Alliance. And Orlando's like, I don't care who's responsible, whoever it is, they gonna pay. And Senor Cruz is like, yes, it's time for war, but it won't be that simple. So Juan continues to talk, and he said the Alliance is a table made up of members just like ours, but it's made up of former members of ours and adversaries of ours, include Dominique LaRue, Alexander Cora, Alejandro Zuniga, Antonio Dash, Donna Duncan. And they were like, Donna? Oh my gosh, Donna. So Aunt Chippy's like, we got to get to Junior so that she doesn't talk him into it. And Senor Cruz is like, it's too late. And Juan says, this organization is being led by Junior Duncan. Uncle LC gets up. He's in an uproar. What did you say? Whatever. He's like, calm down. He said, listen to me. Because you know Juan is his best friend. As your best friend, I'm trying to tell you, your son is heading up an organization of your enemies specifically to take you down and to take away and take everything that you've ever built. And Chippy was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Now, meanwhile, they pan to the Alliance, and then they show Junior welcoming their newest member of the Alliance. And if you hadn't guessed it by now, child, is that racist ass senator from Virginia. Now, I'm sitting here like, why would you align yourself with people that hate you? But this whole group, this whole alliance here it's based on the idea that your enemy of your enemy is your friend. But I'm going to remind people that once you no longer have a common enemy, they will turn on you, because don't forget, you're not really friends. So now this alliance is complete so far. And we're back at the mansion, and just when you think things couldn't get any worse, Rio and Roman walk in. And Uncle LC is like, we're having a family discussion about your brother. Who is your friend? And Chippy looks over and recognizes, oh my gosh, that's the snot-nosed kid that carjacked us. So Orlando like tried to start a fight him or whatever. And Rio was like, stop. He's one of us. They like, explain yourself. What do you mean he's one of us? Whew. He yells out, Mom, Dad, he's your son. Orlando is beside himself. What are you talking about? We don't have time for these games. He's like, and he finally walks away. But they do a flashback back to the hospital to continue the flashback from earlier, where young Chippy and young LC are holding the babies. And then nurse comes in and says, oh, we need to take them to the nursery so we can get you all cleaned up and everything. So LC goes down with the babies. And Chippy started complaining of some back aches. And she was like, ooh, I'm so glad I'm done. She's like, after these two, I do not want any more children. So Margaret, her nurse, was like, oh, you don't mean that. Oh, she said, oh, no, I mean that. And she's like, do you have any kids? And Margaret was like, no, the good Lord just didn't see fit to bless me with any. So all of a sudden, Chippy starts having this unbearable pain. She was asking for some pain medication. She gives her a sedative. She finally calms down, but she either falls asleep or goes unconscious. And then as Margaret is trying to get her all together, notices that Chippy actually delivered another baby. So she scoops up the baby. She was like, oh my gosh, the baby boy, he's so tiny, he's so beautiful. And she took that as a sign that he was her little miracle. And since Chippy didn't want any more, she stole that baby. So now we know the story of Roman. That's how he came about. Roman is the third baby. Now, you know how all of the kids are named after cities. And I'm like, why would she name the baby Rome? Knowing that the rest of the kids were also named. If you were planning on keeping that secret forever, why would you name that baby something that Chippy would have named him? That's crazy, but that's just me thinking too much. Okay, whatever. So now we're back in the mansion, and everybody just looks shocked. But that's the last reaction that we get. We're going to have to see next season what happens next. In the very last scene, they pan to the Alliance again, going around the table. They're all saying, so what's next, boss? It's time you make a move. And Junior says, the time has come. We're at goddamn war. He had the most evil laugh. It was so crazy. And that's how it ended. So going into season 6, which they are currently filming, Carl Weber says we are not ready. Okay, I know we're not going to be ready. I know we're not ready for it. It's going to be an all-out war. I am still praying and hoping that all of this, Junior is going to come around. he's going to turn the tables and somehow make those enemies at their table LC's footstools. Because, baby, I don't know what's going on. I know you're not trying to come after the Duncans like that. We are not pleased with what is going on, Junior. And now you're going to have the Brotherhood to contend with as well, because Elijah is not playing with y'all. So anyway, if you have made it this far, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. This is the season finale of The Family Business Season 5, and we are looking forward to Season 6. And I think, again, this came on BET, so this is for those that were watching BET. And when New Orleans Family Business comes on BET, I'm going to do the same thing. So I will recap New Orleans once it starts to come on BET, so we can go through that together. But in the meantime, until next time, I will talk to y'all later. Holla!